My boss looked straight at me and said I had not contributed anything, then pushed a termination agreement across the table. Felicity Gordon did it with the same calm certainty she used when approving vendor contracts, as if ending my 7 years in her department required no more thought than clearing a notification from her phone. "Daisy, I will not repeat myself," she said, tapping the final page with one manicured nail. "You asked for a 15% raise. You have not earned it. You have not demonstrated strategic value, and I cannot keep anyone who overestimates themselves." I felt my throat tighten, but I kept my voice steady. I brought the updated routing model last quarter. It cut delays by nearly 30%. Olivia made a soft noise, somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. A coincidence. That model was luck. Besides, upper management looks at leadership, not technicians. Technician? That was new. The word landed harder than any insult she had thrown before. She slid the pen toward me. "Sign it. Human Resources is waiting." Her office felt too quiet. Even the hum of the old ceiling vent seemed to fade. I did not look at the city outside the window. I looked at her, at the certainty in her eyes, at the belief that I would fold the same way I always had. She expected a tremble, a plea, a final attempt to win back my place. Instead, I picked up the pen, her eyebrow lifted. "You are really going to do this?" "I am." I signed each page slowly, almost calmly. Olivia watched with a confused frown, as if she could not understand why I was not arguing for my job, for my reputation, for the years I had handed over without hesitation. She did not know that. Before sunrise, my phone rang with a voice she had spent half her career trying to outrun. Hattie Bingham, Southfield Logistics. I placed the signed paperwork back in front of Olivia. Her fingers hesitated before pulling it toward her. "That will be all," she said, but her tone had lost its smoothness. I stood, collected my bag, and stepped into the hallway, leaving her door open behind me. There was nothing left to discuss. The real conversation was waiting for me in the past 11 years, buried under her shadow, and it was finally time to face it. How many times can a person shrink themselves before they disappear entirely? The question sat with me as I walked out of Olivia's office and into the hallway that had carried 11 years of my quiet obedience. Jake's shoe was leaning over his desk when I passed. He glanced up, saw my face, and straightened. "Daisy, what happened in there?" "Termination," I said. "Effective immediately." He stared at me. "Because of the raise, because I asked for 15%. I replied, "According to Olivia, I have not contributed anything." Jake rubbed the back of his neck. "That is not true, and she knows it." I almost smiled, but the weight in my chest was too heavy. Knowing and acknowledging are not the same thing. My mind drifted back to the first year I worked under her. The late nights correcting formulas no one else wanted to touch. The routing model I rebuilt from scratch. The morning Olivia called me into her office and said, "Good work, Daisy," before carrying my draft straight to upper management without mentioning my name. She returned later with applause echoing behind her. "They loved my proposal," she announced. I remembered nodding, pretending pride, pretending it did not matter who stood in front of the room. One evening, I stayed behind to finish a predictive loop for regional shipments. The numbers were clean. The logic was sharp. It saved the company more than $200,000 in under 1 quarter. When the final memo went out, my name was gone. I approached Olivia quietly. "I built that model," I said. She did not look up from her keyboard. "You assisted," she replied. "I refined it." My father's voice rose in my head, in the same warning he had repeated since I was a teenager. Stability is worth more than pride. Keep your head down. Do not make trouble. I had believed him for so long. Jake's voice pulled me back. "You deserved better than this." "I know," I said, and for the first time, the words felt solid. I picked up my things and walked toward the elevator. The loyalty that had once held me still was beginning to feel like something else entirely. What if the truth hides in the smallest accidental click? I learned that lesson on a Tuesday afternoon. Long before Olivia pushed my termination papers across the table. The email appeared in my inbox with no subject line. At first, I thought it was another automated alert. Then I saw the sender, Felicity Gordon. For a moment, I considered deleting it. Curiosity won. Inside was a full report. My framework, my formulas, my phrasing, except every place my name should have been. Olivia had replaced it with her own. She had even rewritten the introduction, but the structure was identical. It was the same model I had built alone over 2 silent weekends. I stood from my desk and walked to her doorway. "You sent me the draft," I said, holding up my phone. Olivia did not look away from her screen, then delete it. "I recognize every line," I said. "You are presenting this as your breakthrough." She finally lifted her head. "Daisy, stay in your lane. You build tools. I translate them for leadership. That is the arrangement. That was never the arrangement." Her expression cooled. "If you want visibility, you earn it through me, not around me." The room felt smaller than usual. I stepped back, unsure if I was angrier at her or at myself for letting this pattern stretch across 11 years. As I returned to my desk, Jake swiveled toward me. He lowered his voice. "She used your loop, did she not? It is the entire report." He sighed. "Everyone knows who does the real work. They just pretend not to." His words should have felt comforting. Instead, they stung. If everyone knew. Then everyone had also watched it happen. I sat down slowly, the weight of his honesty settling in my ribs. Humiliation pulsed under my skin, mixed with something sharper fear of what would happen if I dared to step beyond the boundaries Olivia had built around me. The elevator chimed in the distance, and I closed my inbox. If my work could be erased that easily once, it could just as easily happen again. What if the lifeline you need has been sitting in your inbox for years? The thought flickered through my mind as I packed the last of my things into a cardboard box. My badge, a few notebooks, a half a dead plant. 11 years reduced to what could fit between my hands. Jake hovered beside my desk. "You should not leave like this," he whispered. "She does not get to decide your worth." "She already did," I said. "Now I have to decide something else." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and handed me a folded sheet of paper. "Before you go, you should see this." It was a preliminary draft for the regional overhaul project, the one I had spent months refining. At the top, Olivia had written, "Presented by Felicity Gordon." "She is planning to take it to the executive team next week," Jake said quietly. "Your version, word for word." My chest tightened. "Of course she is." He lowered his voice further. "Daisy, if you walk away, she will act like you never existed." I shook my head. She already does. I tucked the paper into my box and headed toward the elevators, but something in me resisted pressing the down button. Instead, I stepped into the empty conference room across the hall and opened my inbox. I scrolled past system alerts, vendor messages, and years of forgotten correspondence until a subject line stopped me. Follow-up from Chicago Analytics Summit sent 2 years earlier from Hattie Bingham. I opened it. Her words were short, confident. "Your routing analysis is the sharpest I have seen in a long time. If you ever want to be valued properly, call me." At the bottom sat a phone number I had never dared to dial. Jake appeared in the doorway. "Are you all right?" "No," I said, "but I think I know what I need to do." I memorized the number, closed the laptop, and carried my box out of the room. My hands shook, not from fear, but from possibility, a feeling I had nearly forgotten. What I would risk for the first real chance at being seen was something I was finally ready to find out. What if the person you are afraid to call answers on the first ring? I stared at the number on my phone until my vision blurred. My thumb hovered, pulled back, hovered again. The conference room felt too quiet, too empty, like it was waiting to see if I would finally step out of the shadow I had lived in for 11 years. I pressed call. The line barely rang once. "Daisy Bloomfield," a voice said, crisp and certain. "I was wondering when you would reach out." I swallowed hard. Charlotte, of course. I recognized the number. There was no surprise in her tone, only expectation. It happened today. Did it not? Olivia finally pushed too far. My breath caught. "You already know I have been watching her pattern for years," she replied. "Every time one of your models appeared in public reports, I could see her fingerprints all over the parts that were not hers." I leaned against the table. I did not think anyone noticed. "Oh, I noticed," Charlotte said, "and I have been waiting for you to stop letting someone else speak for your brilliance." The room felt smaller, but not in the way Olivia's office had. This was pressure from the inside, hope pressing against the ribs. "I do not have a job anymore," I said. "Olivia fired me for asking for a 15% raise." Charlotte made a quiet, disbelieving sound. "You built the only predictive model in this region that actually works. She fired her strongest mind because she was afraid of you." I did not know what to say. For years, I had waited for someone to contradict Olivia, and now the words felt too large to hold. "Meet me tonight," Charlotte said, 7 o'clock. "I will send you the address. I will not make you any promises over the phone, but I think you already know why I want to talk." I hesitated only a moment. "I will be there." "Good," she said. "It is time you stopped shrinking." When I ended the call, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something I had not allowed myself to feel in a long time. What if the person who truly sees your worth has been watching your work all along? What happens when someone finally shows you the data you were never meant to see? I kept replaying that question as I walked into the small cafe Charlotte had chosen. She was already seated, posture straight, expression unreadable but alert, like someone who had made a decision long before I arrived. "Daisy," she said, standing to greet me. "Sit. We have a great deal to cover." I sat across from her, unsure where to begin. Charlotte did not give me time to search for words. She pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. "Here," she said, turning it toward me. "This is the regional routing model your company has been using for 3 years. The framework has your structure, your logic, your sequencing." My breath caught. "That is mine." "It is," Charlotte replied, and this she swiped to another file. "Is the version presented by Felicity Gordon. Look at the revision history." I leaned forward. Each timestamp showed Olivia opening my drafts, copying sections, rewriting headings, deleting my name. She did this repeatedly. Charlotte said, "For multiple models, I gathered the histories because I thought you might need them someday." I shook my head slowly. I did not know anyone was watching. "I was," she said simply. "You changed how this sector functions. It is time you stop hiding behind someone who fears being outshined." The words hit harder than I expected. Olivia said I lacked strategic vision. Charlotte leaned back, eyebrows lifting. Then why did every improvement she presented come from you? She opened another folder. "Look at this projection. Your work saved your company more than $200,000 in under 1 quarter, and you were not credited." I stared at the screen, heat rising behind my eyes. Charlotte closed the tablet. "Daisy, I want you at Southfield. Strategic Operations Manager, salary nearly double what you made, and full authorship for every project you lead." I inhaled sharp and unsteady. "Why me?" "Because you earned it," she said, "and because I do not offer roles out of pity." The certainty in her voice softened something inside me. I pressed my palms together, grounding myself in the moment that felt like a door opening after years in the dark. If someone hands you the life you always deserved, do you dare take it? What does power sound like when it finally answers back? I carried the HR packet under my arm as I stepped into the office for the last time. The air felt different, thinner, almost brittle. Olivia was waiting near her doorway, arms crossed, expression sharp enough to slice through whatever dignity I had left. "So you came back," she said. "I assumed you would avoid the embarrassment." "I am here for the paperwork," I replied. She gave a dry laugh. "Daisy, let us be honest. No one in this industry is going to hire someone who folds under pressure. You should have taken my feedback instead of running from it." "I did not run." I said. "Well, you certainly did not rise." She snapped a 15% raise. "On what planet did you think you deserved that you are going to learn very quickly that no one values an analyst who confuses effort with impact?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This is the moment people regret being difficult. But do not worry, you will adjust. Unemployment has a way of teaching." Her phone rang. She paused, irritated, and answered. "This is Felicity Gordon." A long stretch of silence followed. Her eyes twitched. Her hand tightened around the phone. "Yes," she said slowly. "Daisy is still in the building. Why do you need her?" Another pause. "You want her to continue leading the Harbor Line rollout?" I watched the color drain from her face. "I see," she murmured. "Even if she transitions to a competitor." Another beat of silence. "I understand. I will relay that." She ended the call without looking at me. I waited. Finally, she lifted her gaze. "They asked for you specifically." I nodded. "So it seems." Olivia's jaw tightened. "This does not change anything. It changes everything." I said, "You told me I contributed nothing. They disagree." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The power she had held over me for 11 years cracked in the space between us. I placed the HR forms on her desk and stepped back, leaving her frozen in the doorway she had once used to block every path forward. What does a collapsing tower look like from the outside? What happens to a system built on silence when the silence breaks? I learned the answer faster than I expected. 2 days after signing my papers, I received a call from Jake. His voice had none of its usual steady calm. "Marin, do you have a minute?" he asked. "I do." "What is going on?" "You should hear this before it spreads," he said. "We lost the Pacific Data account this morning. They pulled out after insisting you stay on as lead. And they were not the only ones. 2 other clients requested reassignments." I closed my eyes for a moment. Olivia must be furious. That is not the word I would use. Jake said, "Senior leadership wants explanations. She does not have any." Before I could respond, another call came through, this time from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring, but moments later, a message notification appeared. It was a screenshot, a leaked document labeled Internal Revision Archive. My models, my timestamps, Olivia's edits, every instance of her removing my name. I called Jake back. "You saw the leak, all of us did." He said someone published the files on the internal dashboard. Emails, histories, everything. His voice dropped. "They opened an investigation into Olivia less than an hour later." A quiet exhale escaped me. Not satisfaction, not relief, just the weight of truth dropping into place. "She is trying to claim it was delegation," Jake added, "but the proofs are dated. There are more than 3 years of documentation." The door behind me opened, and Charlotte stepped in, offering a small nod before waiting at a respectful distance. I kept the phone pressed to my ear. "How is the rest of the team handling it?" I asked. 4 analysts resigned today," Jake said. "They said they will not stay under a leader who steals their work. Everyone is shaken." I pressed my hand to the table, steadying myself. I never wanted this. I know, he said, but none of it is because you left. It is because she kept pushing everyone down until the foundation gave out. We ended the call quietly. Charlotte approached, her voice gentle. Rough morning. Not rough, I said, just honest. She nodded once. Is it punishment if the downfall is simply the truth revealing itself? How do you rebuild yourself after years of being told to shrink? I asked myself that as I stepped into the Southfield project room for the first time as a leader, not a shadow. A group of analysts waited around the table. Some new, some with worn expressions I recognized from mirrors. I no longer stood in front of Uod. I said we are starting something different today. From now on, each of you will present your own work. Your names will be on every model, every draft, every report. A young woman near the end of the table blinked at me. Really? We present ourselves. Yes, I said. Your ideas deserve your voice. She looked down quickly, hiding the way her mouth trembled. Another analyst, a quiet man named Thomas, raised his hand slightly. What if leadership disagrees? I am leadership on this project. I replied, and I want to hear your thinking from you, not filtered through someone else. That shifted something in the room. A slow, cautious straightening of shoulders. A flicker of belief. We went through updates one by one. Their voices were hesitant at first, but they steadied as they realized I was not waiting to take anything from them. When the meeting ended, the young woman lingered behind. I just wanted to say, no one has ever told me that before, she said softly about my voice. I nodded. Then we will make it normal here. She stepped out and Charlotte entered as the door closed. You handled that well, she said, folding her arms. I was watching. I am trying to build what I needed years ago. I said. Good, Charlotte replied. Because I am giving you full authority to reshape this department. Structure, culture, credit systems, all of it. That is a lot of responsibility. That is the point. She said, Olivia kept you small. I want to see what you do with room. Her confidence did not intimidate me. It settled into me like something I had been missing. I looked back at the empty chairs around the table, imagining what they could hold if I could create the environment I needed years ago. Who might I become months later? My former boss sent me an email not to apologize, but to apply. I stared at the subject line twice to be sure I was reading it correctly. Consultant application submission. The sender, Felicity Gordon. I opened it. A polite greeting. A brief reminder of her leadership accomplishments. A request for consideration in Southfield's new external consulting program. One I had been chosen to help review. Charlotte stepped into my office with a tablet in hand. Did you see who submitted today? I did. I said, she must not realize you are on the panel. Or she does, I replied. And she is hoping it will not matter. Charlotte set the tablet down. Take your time. Evaluate her like anyone else. I nodded and opened Olivia's portfolio. The deeper I read, the quieter the room felt. Her project summaries were vague. Metrics did not match internal records. Several claims duplicated work from years when I knew she had contributed little more than edits. And the largest accomplishments, those tied to routing, efficiency, and cost reduction, were impossible to reconcile with the revision histories Charlotte had shown me months earlier. Jake forwarded an additional file for my old team. A note above it read, "You will want this for context." It contained time-stamped versions of the same documents Olivia listed as her accomplishments, each one showing my drafts beneath her edits. Charlotte watched my expression. Still think she understood the value of your work? I closed the file. She understood enough to take it. What do you want to do? She asked. I typed a single sentence into the reviewer's form. We require evidence of original work. Charlotte read it, nodded once, and submitted the decision. There was no anger in me, no triumph, just clarity. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of a 7-year shadow finally fall away. When you no longer need someone's approval, is that the moment you finally have fulfillment? Thank you for listening to my story. If you got some value from this, make sure to hit subscribe for more similar stories. Oh, and if you could hit the like button, it will help others see this too, so they can get some value.